What's up, Galaxy, and welcome to the first episode of The Heat Check. So if you don't know me, for the most part, I really enjoy hip-hop music. It's like one of my biggest passions. I can hold a conversation on rap music for hours if you know me. So it was only right that I brought a series like this to the core YouTube channel. So I'm excited for this first episode. This has obviously been a highly requested first episode. People have been begging me to review this, whether it be on my own channel or in some capacity. So I'm bringing it to the core. So for this first episode, we're going to be diving into the new Juice Wrld album, his first After Death album, Legends Never Die. Juice Wrld has always been somebody to me that I've sort of looked up to, simply because coming out of Chicago, obviously it's my hometown, and he just brought a new sound to Chicago that I think a lot of people didn't know he had. Unless you listen to like old 808s, Kanye and stuff like that, you know, a lot of people don't think Chicago has a sentimental, like, in your feelings, like, touchy side. And I think that Juice Wrld really brought that to the forefront, and it was a nice break from the traditional Chicago drill and rap music. So obviously, you know, Juice Wrld was a prominent figure, especially within our generation. So it was obviously really sad seeing him pass in the manner in which he did, especially if you take a dive into his other music and realize how much of a problem he had. So when you dive into his other music and you realize how much he was pleading for help, and how much he was relying on these drugs to get through, it's really sad to see him go so soon at such a young age. But with that being said, there are going to be no biased reviews on the Heat Check. No matter if the artist is dead, alive, man, woman, whatever the case may be, we're going to be 100% honest and authentic on this show. I want you guys to have my honest opinions on each album that we review on here. So we're going to go through some pros, go through some cons, go through the best tracks, the worst tracks, and at the end we're going to give it a heat rating out of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to see what I rate it. So let's start off with the pros, start with the good stuff. So off rip, I really applaud Juice's work ethic. While he was alive, to have this much music, this much quality music, I think is a key that we need to pay attention to, because a lot of times these artists will pass away and they won't have that much really like quality music in their back catalog. The best example I can give, I guess, is XXXTentacion. X's music really fell off at a certain point after his passing, and I don't fault X for that, because at the end of the day, we don't know if X would have ever released that music after his passing. But Juice sort of flips that around, and there's a lot of quality tracks on here that is very impressive that he just had, sitting in a vault waiting to be released or to not be released even. So in typical Juice Wrld fashion, we get some very eerie, like almost tear-jerking cuts on this album. One of the most prominent for me was the song Wishing Well on here, in which he states that he truly felt that he wouldn't be here if it weren't for the drugs that he was using to get by. And the sad irony behind that those same drugs are the things that took him out. That it was really moving to really sit there and think about. And obviously, I don't know if this song would have hit the same if Juice was still with us and if he was still alive today. But in that moment, listening to that and especially hearing that line, it really struck a chord in me. And I'm not gonna lie, that the outro, the little skit outro of him, supposedly talking from heaven or whatever it was, it made my eyes water. That was a hell of a way to finish out an album after death. So shout out to Lil Bibby and all the other people that produced this album, because that right there, that made the eyes water. The tracks with features on here were very solid. Everybody contributed what they were supposed to, and a passion that made it feel like they actually cared about the music that they were being put on. From Halsey to Polo G to the Kid Laroi to Trippie Redd, everybody contributed what they were supposed to the album in different sounds, different facets, and played to their strengths very well. In fact, one of my favorite tracks on here is Hate the Other Side featuring Polo G. So those are some of the positives about the album. Unfortunately, like I said, we have to be unbiased, so it's time to move on to the cons and the things that I did not like about this album. So off rip, one of the biggest problems, I think, in rap in general, not even just like post-death albums, I think, is that this is simply too long. There was a lot of tracks on here that seemed like filler, and they were just like average, that I think this album could have been enhanced if it was trimmed down a decent bit. And I understand the fan service to want to give the fans as much music as possible, but at the end of the day, I feel like putting too many tracks on somebody's album post-death, especially if they aren't, all up to par and all up to quality, I think can really damage their legacy. And obviously that's not something that we blame on Juice Wrld, right? That's something we blame on the people that curated the album. You can even almost blame the fan base for demanding so much music, when in actuality you should be demanding the music that's going to cement their legacy and make people truly realize how special Juice was. So I think I'm going to start a segment on this show called the Corny Corner, where we take different bars that are extremely corny or extremely whack, and we're going to talk about them, sort of dissect them, and try to figure out what was going through the artist's head when they put, certain bars on certain albums. So like I said before, Juice is not going to get a pass for some of these lines. I'm sorry. People are going to hate me for pointing this out, but if this was any other rapper, people would have been calling him corny. People would have been saying, that was whack. Why would you say something like that? This is the worst bar of 2020. Whatever the case may be. So there's two in particular that really stood out to me. Number one, dick too big wouldn't fit in your mom. Number two, JK Juice Wrld, you're so awesome. So yeah, we're adding those to the Corny Corner right here. Juice, I'm sorry, but I can't give you a pass for saying something like that. I just can't. We're not gonna do it. A lot of these songs, it sounded repetitive almost, and I think that goes back to me saying, there shouldn't have been this many tracks on this album. I think it definitely could have been cut down to where it didn't have to sound samey. It didn't have to sound repetitive like that. Two of the biggest examples I can sort of give that sound like too much like his old stuff, but not in a good way, are Conversations and Titanic. I think both of those tracks were sleepers, completely like useless filler tracks that I think could have been left off of this. There could have been other songs put into this that I think he's shown snippets of that would have been a lot better, or they could have just been omitted, period, and I think the album would have hit a lot different. Lastly, I think more features would have helped this a lot. I talked about earlier how the features really enhanced what was going on within the album. So I think if they could have added, more features of people he meant a lot to, and especially like Chicago rappers, sort of the Pop Smoke approach. They put a lot of New York rappers on his project, that he meant a lot to. They definitely left out a lot on that album as well. But I just think there could have been a lot more features to sort of enhance the album. It could have even alleviated some of the corny bars. If you listen to a Juice verse and it's not the hardest, or it's not the best, there's corny bars on it, just keep it out. Put a feature in place of it. I don't think anybody's going to fault you for taking out a Juice verse that you don't think is up to par and putting somebody else on that to make the song better overall. So we're going to go with my favorite tracks from this album. I'm going to throw 3 and 3 for the best and the worst. So let me know what your best and what your worst tracks were in the comment section. But we're going to start with my 3 best tracks. So for my 3 best tracks, I'm going to take Bad Energy. I'm going to take Tell Me You Love Me featuring Trippie Redd, which was a single that he dropped beforehand. Didn't know it was going to be on this album, but I reviewed it on my own channel, and I thought it was a very, very solid track. Ended up on my singles of the week. And then finally, my last track on here that I really, really enjoyed, I thought it was very well written, very well executed, was Hate the Other Side featuring Polo G. Now for the worst tracks on the album. So I'm like, discretion, this is my opinion. Leave in the comments if you think other tracks are worse than this, if you think these tracks were good. Feel free to leave it in the comments, but this is just my opinion. These were the worst tracks on the album. I have Titanic, Man of the Year, and Come and Go. So overall, I thought there were some very standout and highlight moments on this project, in particular Wishing Well, Hate the Other Side. I thought there were some tracks on here that could have been left off. I think there was a lot of filler on here. If you're a Juice Wrld fan, I think you're going to enjoy this project a lot. I think it's going to be one of your favorite albums this year. If you're, really, really into hip-hop music and you really indulge in, rap music, whether it be, the past or even in the present, if you're like a connoisseur, I don't think this is going to be on your album of the year list. I don't think it's going to have the same effect on you as it would an actual Juice Wrld fan. So for me, it was just okay. Not saying the album was bad, not saying it was good, but it was rare that I felt emotion within it besides the previous singles that we talked about earlier. I definitely think it could have been cut a little bit shorter to make it more effective. And I hope the deluxe version, really helps with that. I hope they add more tracks that are, less fillery, and definitely more dynamic in their approach. So yeah, this album was just okay. It was just there. Definitely not in my album of the year conversation, but there was definitely some solid cuts on here that I'm going to be listening to for the rest of the year. And I definitely think it added a lot of good songs to Juice WRLD's catalog, sadly after his passing. So on the heat scale, we're going to give this about a 76 degrees out of 100. Nothing too special, but also not too shabby. So shout out to the Galaxy for watching this. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you for supporting us on this journey so far. Definitely going to do more heat check episodes. So if you want me to do classic albums, albums from other genres other than hip hop, albums that are going to come out soon, but just leave some albums in the comments that you want me to review. We can talk about them, discuss them. I love talking and sharing music with you all. So make sure you go join our Discord. We have a lot of conversations, and there's always people willing to game in there. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, YouTube. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it with your friends. All the works. The core is going up, and we hope you're coming with this Galaxy. So I appreciate everybody that watched this, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.